Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Blumstrom along with Amanda Fulbright, and you are listening to ABA Unfiltered, where each episode we interview guests from around the world of ABA. Whether you're a BCBA, RBT, or just interested in ABA, you are sure to pick up some actionable advice you can utilize on your journey.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going? You
Hi.
excited about our first podcast?
I am. It's been a while since we've talked to Mr. Tim Crilly, so it's exciting to have him back in the Blue Sprig world.
Yeah, I guess it's technically not your first podcast. You
Yeah.
have been the producer for 2 or 3 seasons now.
2 seasons behind the scenes. This is the first season now on air for the podcast, which is a nice change. It'll be interesting and fun to see how this season goes.
Yeah, I'm excited that we were able to pick up the torch from Tim and carry on the podcast, not let Tim's baby die. So, and excited to be doing that with you, Andrew.
Yeah, it's been great. He, carried us along for 4 seasons. So as you mentioned, it's going to be nice to kind of pick up his torch and carry it and see where we can take it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what advice he might have for us and what he's been up to since leaving us at Blue Sprig. So it'll be awesome to talk to Tim.
Me too.
So are you excited about any other guests we have coming up this season?
Yeah, I'm really actually excited about a lot of the guests we have coming up. Talking about some of the supervision stuff with Blue Sprig's own Diana Powell. I think that's going to be awesome. Coming up near talking to the attend behavior folks with, parent and caregiver training. I think that's huge in the field of ABA. So really excited to hear what they have to talk about. But overall, just super excited about this whole season. Any particular guests you're really dying to talk to?
Well, I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous, but very excited to talk to Shala, Linda LeBlanc, and Dr. Tyra Sellers about supervision. They are just some really great role models in our field, and it's an honor to be able to interview them. So nervous, but super excited.
It'll be fun. Before we get started, we would like to take this time for Amanda and I to introduce ourselves to you, our loyal ABA listeners. Amanda, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Thanks, Andrew. I'm Amanda Fulbright. I'm really excited to be a new host of ABA Unfiltered. I am a BCBA and I work for Blue Sprig Pediatrics as the Senior Vice President of Learning and Performance Development. I have been a big cheerleader of this podcast and of Tim Crilly, the former host, since the inception of the idea for this podcast. And so I'm really honored to step into some big shoes that Tim has left for us. I live in the Dallas, Texas area with my husband and 2 cool kids and a really cool cat. What about you, Andrew?
My name is Andrew Blumstrom, and like Amanda, I work for Blue Sprig Pediatrics. I am part of the Learning and Performance Development Department. I am the Director of Learning Technology and Operations Initiatives here at Blue Sprig Pediatrics. I have been now at Blue Sprig for about 3 years. I have worked in the education field for a little over 20 years now. Really enjoy helping others learn the skills they need to be successful, not only in their professional worlds, but their personal lives as well. And really looking forward to kind of working with you on this podcast and getting to hopefully get some more information out there to all of our listeners. I live in the Orlando, Florida area with my 2 children and wife and our dog Junior. Looking forward to this season of ABA.
Well, we are very excited to be your new hosts of ABA Unfiltered. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you subscribe and come back as a loyal listener next time. Well, are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready to get into it.
Let's talk to Tim.
Now, without further ado, we'd like to welcome back to ABA Unfiltered our previous host, Tim Crilly. Tim, why don't you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and what interests you about the topic of ABA?
Okay. Well, Andrew, thank you. Amanda, thank you. It's really exciting to be back. Basically, currently, I'm just a guy without a podcast, so it's nice to have something to do today. Where to start? ABA has been my career. Like a lot of people, my generation, my age. wasn't what I had planned on doing. Didn't even know what it was until I started doing it. And even then, I don't even know if it was ABA back then. It was some other form of something. I was a teacher, so started out as a grade school teacher, and quickly found that wasn't really for me. Had a child in the kindergarten class that I had who was undiagnosed, made life a little bit of a challenge, but I found myself gravitating more towards him rather than the rest of the class. And someone from another ABA agency was working one of the special day classrooms there, and said, "Hey, there's this thing, you can come do it, and it's more of a one-on-one." And I knew teaching was sort of coming to an end for me, and I went and I gave it a try. And it allowed me to meet a lot of special people along the way. One of those would be Dr. Sharon Kerr. She was the person I met on my first day of work at that company, and worked there for 10 years in a number of different roles, and really fell in love with the industry and the people and sort of the things you were able to do to help families. Like, that was what really drew me in. Sharon unfortunately made me go back to school twice. So at the conclusion of that, I did have my BCBA. After that, my goal was always, hey, how do I have a bigger impact? How can I do something that has, more of an influence in different directions? So I went and I was one of the first BCBAs to work at an insurance company. So I was with Magellan, and got a chance to help guide some of the practices and sort of the way that they were going to look at interpreting care, for better or for worse. Some people liked the things that I did, and some of the things made me really famous for all the wrong reasons. But it was a really good learning experience for me. It was probably, the best paid internship I've ever had, because I really learned a lot about the industry, and I didn't realize how much I didn't know until I took that role, which is crazy to think. It was almost 10 years ago when I started at Magellan. It was in 2013, so we're coming up on that 10-year anniversary. And I did that for a few years, but quickly start to realize that the red tape was getting in the way, and it really was a challenge to have the impact that I would have hoped I could have had. And then I got a call from a guy I'd never met, with a Yahoo email, and said, "Hey, I'm starting this ABA company. It's called Blue Sprig." And I, wrote it down on a piece of paper. And of course I wrote Blue Spring. And, he's like, "There's no website." And he was coming from a Yahoo email. And my wife was saying, "This is not real." And I said, "Well, he's willing to fly out and meet with me. It seems like a pretty elaborate ruse to, get it up into anything nefarious." So I met with Keith Jones, the former CEO at Blue Sprig, and really fell in love with his vision. And that was in the fall of 2017. So I was able to join Blue Sprig before it was really anything of note. It was 2 clinics, about 11 clients. I think we had 9 total authorizations for said 12 clients. So there was a lot of work to do at that time. And pretty quickly, I really fell in love with what we were trying to do, and was able to get a few folks that came from my past to join, like Sharon. I had a chance to meet Amanda, and we really formed a bond early on in that time, and it was some of the greatest professional years of my life, for those early days at Blue Sprig, helping grow through both the acquisition process as well as the de novo stuff that we were doing at the time, and really were having an impact. Then, as all things do, they start to change, and the role that I was in really wasn't the thing that I was doing earlier, because we were at a different phase in the life cycle of Blue Sprig, which totally makes sense. So I had the opportunity. I met some people with the group I'm with now, Raven Health, and I started talking to them, and lo and behold, they were a startup, much like when Keith reached out to me. And I started to realize, and I'm going to steal a line from Amanda here, I really enjoy building the track more than I enjoy running the track. And I get to be a track builder again over here at Raven Health. So Raven Health is a mobile first, so it's an app-based data collection tool, that is really in the beginning phases of really doing some great and amazing things that I think in 2023 people are going to be excited to see. And I'm really excited about being a part of that process, because going back to my earlier point about having that impact, I do feel that a technology aspect to this industry is really needed. I think there's a lot of things that we can automate, and we can really cut down on the non-billable or the back end work that we end up having to do, that takes away from our ability to serve the clients that we're meant to serve. So I'm really excited about the things that Raven's doing, and to really help people with practices of all sizes out there in the ABA community and beyond, speech and OT, and then we're getting into some other things as well. But really trying to solve problems for people as it relates to their data collection, their EMR, and all that sort of stuff. So Raven Health, that's my commercial, and I'll leave you guys to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So you mentioned a little bit about Raven Health during your introduction, but was kind of curious, what difference do you see between Raven and some of the other tech solutions in ABA, and how do you think that's going to make the biggest impact for those spaces of ABA?
I appreciate that question. Kevin Vick, our main sales guy, will really appreciate that question. I think for me, if you go back to that first day where I met Sharon Kerr, my first day in the ABA world, it was a binder, and you're opening a 3-ring binder and you just get to work. And I think for me, that's what Raven really feels like. It's that I'm opening up a binder, I'm doing one thing, and I'm just getting started. You're not clicking through tons of screens trying to find where you're supposed to be. It's just you click on your session, the schedule just takes you right to the data book, and you're ready to go, and you're ready to start collecting information on that program, on that client, on that family. It has great offline features. It actually works offline because it's built app first, where other ones were built non-app first, and they tried to migrate over. So that's why you run into some of the problems with some of the other ones in that regard. We can do multiple types of therapy within it. It's not just limited to ABA. We are really looking to solve the note capturing problem that sort of plagues the industry currently. Lost notes or incomplete notes, or okay, I'll do all those at the end of the week, and then they're inaccurate, or they're not done right, and people are having trouble collecting on those sessions. So we're trying to really solve for some of those issues. And I think one of the really cool things is we really work with a lot of development partners in the community. So if you guys want to use it and spend some time in it, you can come back to us and say, this is great, this isn't, and we're able to fix those things and make those improvements as we move along. So it's not just us trying to tell you what it should be. It's part of the community bringing it back and helping us develop something that could really change the way people approach care.
Awesome. Yeah, poking around the website. Yeah, poking around the website, that offline stuff I thought was a big win. Being out in the community with clients and being able to take notes, even if you didn't have that connection, and being able to have it sync back later when you back on Wi-Fi or back wherever you are with your clients is awesome.
Yeah.
I was talking to another BCBA recently about how data collection is like a cornerstone of our science and of our therapies, but it often can get in the way of the therapy. It can get in the way of building a relationship with a client or delivering services because you're so immersed in collecting the data. Sure. And I think that what you said about just jumping in and getting to work is a real benefit to clinicians, but also the clients they're serving.
Yeah. And, but it's not a 3-ring binder. So there isn't a case where you're going to show up and there's 4 pages missing, or someone spilled water all over the binder, or whatever. It's all those conveniences of that binder without all of the pitfalls that came with it back in the old days. I remember binder reinforcers.
I was going to just ask you if you remember those.
Yes, they were like gold. Velcro, laminate, and binder reinforcers are the 3 things that I think we kept them in a safe at the office. I mean, they were like, of such value, 20 years ago. So, those sorts of things that we're able to take away and sort of reduce a lot of the costs around getting away from that paper model, but also, making sure that people are feeling like it's intuitive. And I'll say one more thing. I would say it is built to look more like the other things that you use in your life. So it feels more like getting into the Uber app and ordering a car.
Mhm.
So it has a feel that I think, as I get older, the workforce gets younger, the families that we're serving get younger. I think this is a system that really speaks to that generation of people that are spending the most time in it. And I think that's a big selling feature. Just when people walk by and want to look at it, it just looks like something they want to use. And I don't know if everyone can say that.
Yeah, I mean UI, user interface, is a big deal when getting products out there, to make sure that, like you said, it's something that they're familiar with and can quickly learn and be able to navigate around to find what they need.
Yeah, totally
That's
agree.
awesome. Awesome. Well, Raven Health, check it out if you're listening.
Yeah, book a
Tim was
demo, call me, whatever.
call Tim.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I want to talk about the podcast,
Okay.
of which we are currently on.
Yeah.
Take us back. Tell us how it got started. Oh, yes.
Okay. Let's get some of that music with like the
Hmm.
going back in time music.
The
So
wavy
it was,
memory.
yeah,
I'll add
it
it in
was
post.
okay, perfect. It was mid pandemic, maybe even earlier in the beginning phases of the pandemic. And we had an intern, Lucas, who came in guns blazing. He was going to help the marketing department. He was a smart kid, just knew his stuff. And he really wanted to do a podcast. And he took it to Keith and Sharon, I know whom else. And I think, they all just said, well, let's have Tim do it. And at that point in time, I said, am I being punished? Like, why? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about this. I've never done anything like that. And here I'm thinking, okay, I'll say yes. It's never going to happen. There's too many things going on. We're never going to get this off the ground. But Lucas was very dogged in his approach, and he had a lot of great ideas. And we sat down and we made a list of, like, who can we interview? Like we always knew it was going to be an interview type of show. So, and I sat down and I said, okay, well, we know a lot of people, and there's a lot of smart people and people that might have an interesting thing to say. Um, and it can really maybe be something that shines a light on Blue Sprig, that says, hey, look at all these cool people we hang out with. Look at like these industry influencers that want to come and talk to us. So that's really what we set out to do. The first season we kind of made a mistake, but it was a good one. We learned a lot, obviously, from those early days of doing this. We tried to edit it too much, so it came off a little choppy. We also recorded a bunch in a row, and then we're trying to release them, intermittently. And then you'd go and listen to it, and someone would be talking about their 4th of July plans, and the episode came out in September. It's like, okay, that doesn't really work. Or I think, Amanda, some of your team was on, and I didn't have, no one could help me that day, and nothing got recorded, so like we had a great conversation. Well, I forget, was it Rachel was in the middle of a hurricane, so it was just, it was a little bit of a wild time at the beginning. But when it was all said and done, and you could log on and like you could see that people were like downloading it and listening to it, and it felt really cool, and it was motivating to say, okay, that was good, we can definitely do better. So I think we set out, Lucas graduated, moved on, and I begged Amanda for help from Andrew. So Andrew came on and really helped push it into that next phase, and really kept me on track, and did all the back end stuff and the technical stuff. And all I had to do was like try to book a guest, write down 5 notes on a piece of paper, and then just jump on and start talking. So I think the other lesson we learned was you have to have interesting people. If you have people that you don't, they can be interesting, but talking about something you're not interested in, it feels forced. And that was a skill that I did not have, was that ability to like extract information about a topic that I didn't know a lot about, or really didn't have a lot of interest in. So, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, with you guys, some different voices, you know, you guys are going to have a whole different take, and there's going to be a different feel to it, because it was really never my podcast. It was, you know, the Blue Sprig podcast that I was hosting. So I'm really excited that it's living on, because I think we did a lot of good things, and it shouldn't go away. And I think there is an audience, and, you know, that you guys have a lot of great people that you can bring to it. And, you know, Amanda, the way you approach the clinical world of ABA is very different than my perspective, and I'm really excited to sort of see it. And, you know, Andrew, I guess they're letting you out of the box and you're allowed to talk now. So, you know, I'm sorry I was holding you down all these years. It was a union thing. You know, I couldn't get permission to get some of those technical guys you know, airtime, so I apologize. So yeah, it was just something that I didn't think I would ever want to do. And when I told my then, I guess he was probably 14 at the time, he said, "No, you're not doing that." Like, he was mortified to think that, you know, like my voice would be on the ethos. So he's never listened to it, so it doesn't exist in his world anyway. But you know, and the joke was always like, we have one listener, it's my mom, and no, and then you find out that's not true.
Tell us the elevator story.
Okay, quick side note. We were at CASP last May. I got into the elevator and I was talking with a colleague of ours, and she ended up seeing someone that she knew. So they started talking, and I was kind of quiet, and it was a crowded elevator because everyone was like switching to go to a different floor for a different talk. And someone said, like, across the elevator, "Hey, do you host that podcast, ABA Unfiltered?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, I recognized your voice from it. It's really good. I appreciate it." And I think I probably missed my floor. I just like stood in the elevator, like in complete shock, as everybody got off and more people got on. So that was really cool. Just, you know, I know that like you guys or, you know, people around Blue Sprig would listen to it, but just to some stranger out in the world who's out there listening to it was pretty cool, and like literally recognized my voice, because if you go, my face is nowhere to be found anywhere around the ABA unfiltered material. So there you go. So,
well,
and it lives on.
I hope that listener is not too sad about your departure and continues to listen.
But now they'll get to see your face.
I got a new microphone over here. I can come back anytime.
Tell me about ALS and ABA.
Oh, man, why do you want to torture me? I'm still thinking we can make this happen, and I think we could do it in a different kind of way. It could be the night before major conferences around the country, and you get a couple people together in the bar, and we sit down and we pick a topic, and you get a beverage, and you go, and you just start talking. But it was a concept we had. We wanted to, I guess, have an excuse to expense alcohol to the company, but we were going to sit down and have real conversations about the inside stories of Blue Sprig, and just sort of how we all came to be, and how in those early days you know, we were just figuring it all out, and to take it from that tiny little group of people in 2 small offices to what we got it at, and sort of like the behind the scenes while drinking. I think that was the plan, but certain Australian women who shall not be named shot it down and never let our dreams live.
No, she's always crushing our dreams.
I know.
Do you have a favorite episode you did?
There's one from the first season. Gosh, and I feel bad, I forget his name, but it was a young man on the spectrum came on to talk about work, and, you know, his what he does and things like that. But he just sort of started telling a story about him being bullied in, I think, junior high, early high school, and it was just a very, very powerful story, because he ended up running into one of the girls that used to give him a hard time later in life. Like, they were in their like early 20s, and she had so much regret around it's Cordell Sherwood, had so much regret around what she had done. and didn't realize that, he had a diagnosis, and this is why some of the behavior that he exhibited, that he was ridiculed for, wasn't really him. And it was just a really powerful story. And I remember when we were done and we came back on screen, Lucas had just tears streaming down his face. It was like that powerful of a story. So I think that one, if you want to go through the logs and find it, it's a little rough, like that, because it was the early days, but the story and the message is really amazing. And then just with Shala, having Shala on from UNT to talk about, gosh, I don't remember what we talked about because it was all so smart and so perfect. It was really hard to top.
Awesome. Well, she's going to be a guest on this season as well. So hopefully it'll be a good conversation. I expect nothing less.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one. Very much so. I mean, she's such an amazing lady. And I think that was one of the ones where I'm like, let me ask you a follow-up question. And I thought I had sort of figured out what she was talking about. She's like, no, that's not right. But just like in a perfect kind of way, and just like help me get like, work through like the topic. And, it was about using the term buy-in. How we talk about like, oh, we got to get our families to buy in. We got to get the, staff to buy in and all that stuff. And it was just a really, really interesting take on something that I had taken for granted and never really thought about. So to me, that conversation with her was amazing. And then we ended up having lunch with her a couple months later, and she brought up an episode that she wasn't on. And it was with someone from Trumpet, Amber Valentino from Trumpet. And she was, on to talk about doing research and how all the little things that you do in your everyday life is research if you sit down and write it down and make it research. And Shala was like, I thought it was really great that the first thing you said was, hey, I want everyone to know that, and this is me patting myself on the back, by the way, via Shala. The way you talked about, we're competitors, but why do we have to be competitors? Like, we should really be all communicating and doing these things together. And she brought that up at our meeting, and it was like, wait, you were listening? Like, you weren't just a guest, you're actually listening. That was really cool too. So some real validation there.
Well, and about the term buy-in, you and I chewed on that for months, like almost a year. And then she was on clinical conference, presenting at clinical conference, and I just had to bring it up again. And it happened to be Dr. Carl Binder was also in the audience, and he chimed in. And I think we're closer to maybe a replacement word for that, which is, a shared vision. What is our shared vision instead of buy-in? So
cool. I like it.
Pretty cool follow-up.
Yeah.
But it was a long time that we chewed on that.
Yeah, I mean, because the whole concept is, you come in as a professional, and you've done the work, and you think you have a good plan and a good answer for this family, and it's your impulse to try to, I don't want to use the word impose, but you're kind of imposing that onto that family to say, hey, it worked over here, it worked at the other, it's going to work for you. And just because it has in the past doesn't mean it always will. And it was a really, I've always known that concept, but it's her take on not trying to force the issue was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Love her. So Andrew and I are taking over the podcast.
Yes.
What advice do you have for us, or anyone else that might be interested in starting a podcast?
I mean, going back to some of those lessons learned, only do it because it's a topic and a person of interest. Don't just do it to churn out content, because it won't be good. And your time is too precious. I know you have so many initiatives that you and your team are doing. So make this something that is a fun distraction that also educates or entertains the community. If you try to do things that aren't interesting to you, you'll hate it and you won't want to do it, or you'll be sitting there, it'll be sitting on your schedule and you won't want to go through with that. Kind of like parent training. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Or caregiver guidance. Sorry, it's one of those things you want to make it rewarding. And then also challenge yourself, like get people that make you nervous. Like a couple of those I had on was okay, this is I had Lori Unum on. We had she's so easy, but to talk to, but it's like, because Lori Unum, like you don't want to like mess this one up, because people might actually like see that she's on it and want to chime, tune in and listen, and you don't want to come off sounding like you don't know what you're talking about. So, but challenge yourself, because I think there's a lot of conversations out there that can do that. But it does make you nervous. I mean, I used to joke with Andrew, like I would get nervous like for the first about 20 seconds. And then once I got going, I would relax. But it's that buildup that kind of like, okay, how's this gonna go? Am I gonna blow this or what? So that's my advice. It's got to be fun, or it's not worth doing, because this isn't a giant moneymaker for you. This is something that you're giving back to the community, and so it should be rewarding to the two of you and the people working on it.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Tim.
Thanks for that. I have to ask, and I don't know the answer to this question actually, but did you listen to podcasts regularly before?
No. There is one basketball podcast called No Dunks that Jack, my oldest, used to listen to when he was little. So if I was driving him to school or whatever, he would put that on in the car, and it was basically like four guys the next morning after a slate of NBA games would record a podcast, and they would just talk about anything interesting that happened in the NBA the night before. And so that was really the only one I ever listened to. So going back to like, am I being punished? It's like I didn't even know anything about podcasts. So, and I still haven't really listened to any, to be honest.
Just straight winging it.
Andrew can attest, like I used to show up for the like, oh, let's listen to it together and edit it. And then he was just like, so I'm like, I don't even want to listen to this again. Like I already had this conversation. Like you have to listen to it twice. I don't. But then a couple times I would listen to it when it actually came out, because I would like, oh, let's see how it turned out and things like that. But I kind of stopped that even towards the end, to be honest, because I don't know if it's laziness or just sort of like I already know what we said. But that kind of thing. So no, I'm not a podcast fan, and I know people like freak out about them. So
I did. I mean, I was a listener to most every episode, if not every episode, and I even went back and listened to the ones that I was on, even though it was painful. But just kind of wanted to see how it all sounded together.
Yeah, I mean, I always just tried to be a little like serious, like it's a serious, we're in a serious business, dealing with serious issues. But we always tried to have a lot of fun too, and goof around a little bit. And and one thing I think I found out about myself, that I enjoyed interviewing people, and I didn't think I would as much as I did. So I think that's the one takeaway I got from that was, oh, it's kind of interesting. Like I do like that forum of being part of the person, being part of the process that pulls out information. Like because I never want to interview people like for jobs. Like I hate that. So like I didn't think I'd like interviewing them in this regard. But I found myself really enjoying the actual process of interviewing people.
There's a couple late night talk show hosts that are retiring soon.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm fifth in line, I think, for a few.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Tim, you're one of the most popular guys in ABA. You've got friends and fans all around.
Well, sure. One in an elevator. I think that's it.
You have plenty of friends around. Where can we catch up with you? Maybe have an ale and talk ABA with you this year in the conference circuit.
Yeah, well, now with Raven, it's probably a little bit heavier than my normal load. So a few things. I will definitely be at ABAI Autism. It's local. It's down here in San Diego in February. Um, Calaba and Raven are co-sponsoring a tech summit the night before Calaba. So I want to say that Thursday, March 8th. I'd have to look it up. Maybe it's the 9th. But it's the night before Calaba starts. So there's going to be an event. So we're co-hosting with some panels. Friends of yours will be there on the panel that I'm chairing. Will be Stuart with attend, someone from Florio, and then some folks from Cognoa, which is a remote diagnostic tool. So I'm going to chair that panel, and it's going to be about problems, obstacles, in the pursuit of care, and some technological solutions that those folks bring to that process. I'll definitely be at CASP. I think that's in Tampa in April. And then maybe if you're going to be at TechSaba, I'll definitely come to TechSaba. I think it's in San Antonio. So I miss San Antonio. My work at the Mac was some of my most rewarding times as well at Blue Sprig. So the ability to go back and maybe take a little visit over at the Mac would be cool too. So that's my plan right now. So if you're going to be at any of those things, please come say hello and chat a little bit.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Tim. Are you game to play question of the week with us?
No. Do I have to though, right?
But you must.
Okay.
All right.
Well, then just say we're doing this.
We're doing this right
Okay.
now. Lesson learned already. Don't ask.
Yeah.
All right. So here's how it works. We have 2 questions and then a wild card. So I'll start with the first question. Tell us something that you have learned lately that you think's cool. We are training people in our day jobs, so we like to talk about learning.
I'm not going to say I learned this recently, but I am going to say that it's been reinforced, and I've learned other things about this sort of thing. And it's something that you and I have been talking about, I think, since February of 2021. And it relates to sort of that note capturing process. I'm going to rat on our industry a little bit. I think the early days of our profession really set out to prove that we belonged and do all the things that we think were important, and we've created a system that makes it harder and harder for us to practice, because it makes it easier and easier for health plans to instill various rules that keep those things in place. So I would say, over the top, lengthy progress reports, no one ever asked for them, but we continually churn out 75, 80-page reports. And I think this note capture process for every session that occurs is something that I don't know how many industries really have this level of scrutiny. And I think it's partly because we brought that upon ourselves. So I know it's not the most positive thing to have learned, but I think it's something that as a community we need to start really talking about, and how do we fix this, because it's causing financial hardships for practices that shouldn't have it. They've done the work was right. They're just not getting paid in the way they should because of processes that we put in place,
causing mental anguish for the
yes,
clinicians that
yeah,
are writing said
and burnout, and
80 pages.
stress, all this stuff. So there's got to be a simpler solution to that process.
Yeah,
But,
agreed.
so
Agreed.
sorry, wasn't the most uplifting thing I've learned.
That's okay. All right, next up, let's say you find yourself with an extra hour, maybe a meeting cancels later today. What are you going to do in that hour? How are you going to spend the time?
I mean, not productively, I'll tell you that. I I don't know. I'd probably find something to read, something mindless, maybe scroll through something like Bleacher Report and read more about like the Giants going to the playoffs or something stupid like that. Like that's really what I would do. Or I know Luke's been into chess. My younger son's been into chess. Like maybe get beat by him in chess. I think that would probably be the two things that would pop into my mind. But just something that's like disconnected from, you know, the computer screen and all those things that sort of eat up your day at work. It would be probably one of those two things. Read
Awesome.
mindless sports, get knowledge, crap, junk, whatever, or play a little chess.
Awesome. Are you
Which
good
I'm
at
not
chess?
good at. I'm not good at. I'm like purely
Okay.
defensive and it backfires on me every time.
I'm terrible. I'm even bad at checkers. So, all right, Andrew, you got the
I
wild
do.
card.
So, Tim, we got something a little different for you here. So, in a second, I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button here on this wheel, and I would like you to let me know when to stop.
What's the
Once
what's the
you say
wheel? The
stop,
wild card wheel?
it is the wild card
Oh,
wheel. So, the wheel on your screen, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Once you tell me to stop, I will stop, and whatever number it lands on will be the question that you get asked. Are
okay.
you ready?
I know, but sure. It's very gosh, you guys really getting fancy around here.
All right, here we go. And just let me know when you'd like to stop.
Okay. Stop. Exactly on the line.
Question. Would you like 3 or 4? I'll give you the choice. Choose
Four.
wisely.
Four.
4? All right. So, question number 4. If you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would you choose and why?
Cartoon. Um, Probably Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers. Uh, I just think if you haven't watched that show, it's a great well written show. But he's just a really good dad, and just sort of like his whole persona as a dad is really interesting to me, and being a dad is really important to me. So it's Bob Belcher, and the hamburgers always look amazing, even though they're cartoon. So I wouldn't mind sitting at the counter with Bob, having a burger of the day.
Awesome.
Sounds like a good day.
Well, thank you for playing, even though you were begrudgingly playing to
Yeah.
begin with. Hopefully, it wasn't too painful for you.
No. If you ever have Jonathan Muller on, he's gonna want to just spin the wheel the whole time and just play wild card roulette or whatever that's called. So
Good to know.
yeah,
Good to know.
because
He
that's
does like a question,
he
and I like
does
that
like
about
to
him.
force people to answer questions in social situations.
I like that about him.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on and officially passing the baton to us. I miss you around here at
Yeah,
Blue
I
Sprig.
mean, I know, and I'm thankful that I know no one really cares about this, but your friendship and our ability to stay connected, and just the people at Blue Sprig and just how important you all are still to me, despite our the fact that we're not working together. But I think my whole career has said everyone is still a part of like your work life and the things that you do, and you're living proof of that. We talk more now than I think maybe when we were actually working together, which is great. And I really enjoy it. And I'm really excited that it's you guys, because I think you're going to do a fantastic job, and it's going to be a fun little endeavor for you.
We're
Thank
looking
you,
forward to it.
Tim.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, and Andrew, I'll let you know after a couple episodes if you should still be on, or if you
Yeah.
need to get back in the box.
Yep. Put me back behind the scenes a
Yeah,
little
we'll decide later.
bit.
Never, never, never. Well, thank you, Tim. We
Okay.
will catch you next time. Hopefully you'll come on
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
maybe on a special episode of Ales and ABA.
Yeah. Or a panel. If you ever want to have like just a, you know, get after it sort of panel and just
Technology and ABA.
yeah, we could argue with some people or something. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
very good. Good to see you, pal.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye.
If you or someone you know is looking for some CEUs, head over to bcbaceu.bluesprigautism.com and use the promo code PODCAST to get $5 off any CEU in the catalog. A link to the site can be found below in the description. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.